Welcome back. Israel says it's drawing up plans for an atomic power plant. So how does it compare with other countries in the region, and what are the prospects of a Middle East nuclear arms race? Iran, of course, has drawn international criticism over the nuclear programme it claims is for peaceful purposes only. It denies that it's now considering suspending uranium enrichment. Egypt, which like Iran is signed up to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, says it wants a nuclear power station of its own. And last month, Jordan announced that it's looking to Canada to help it acquire nuclear power as a clean source of energy. We're joined again by our guests. In Jerusalem, Kalev Ben-David, the director of the Israel Project and former managing editor of the Jerusalem Post. From Tel Aviv, by Gideon Spiro, a member of the Israeli Committee for a Mideast free from atomic, biological and chemical weapons. And in London, Elahe Mohtasham, a nuclear specialist and a senior research associate at the Foreign Policy Centre. Gideon Spiro, if I could come to you first. If this project does go ahead, how do you think Israel's neighbours will react?
Look, I think they will react very nervously because they know already that Israel is a nuclear power, and they know exactly that another nuclear reactor will serve also military purposes. And I think that Israel started a nuclear race, and the only way to stop it is to stop this double standard in our area. Israel is receiving another treatment from the international community than Iran, for instance. There are too many people in our area who have a direct line to Almighty, not only in Iran, also in Israel.
Okay.
And the best way to
let me just put that point. Let me stop you there and just let me put that point about the double standards to Gideon Spiro. Is that a fair comment, do you think? Sorry, I beg your pardon, to Kalev Ben-David. Do you think that the accusation of double standards, on the face of it, does look like that, doesn't it?
No, I don't think so, because it's been noted more than once, Israel never signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. It built its own nuclear program outside of the treaty, just like India and Pakistan. And that is the reason that we see the example of the sanctions being put on Iran. And another thing that has to be said, it's also not just a question of the nuclear capability, it's what you do with it. As Prime Minister Olmert noted, the president of Iran, Ahmadinejad, has talked several times about wiping Israel off the map. I mean, the notion that a leader of a country having his hand on the nuclear trigger who believes in wiping another sovereign nation off the map, you know what, I don't even think it should be Israel that should be worried. Israel can defend itself. I think it's Iran's neighbors in the Gulf that have even more reason to be worried. We all would like to, I'm sure, live in a Middle East without nuclear weapons, in a world without nuclear weapons. But we have to be realistic about it. On the day when there is a Gideon Spiro in Iran speaking Farsi to the Iranian people, I'll feel that's the time when really we're moving in that direction to a nuclear-free Middle East.
Elahe Mohtasham, the idea of double standards when it comes to nuclear issues, what do you make of that?
I believe that the double standard exists and is not helping the security of international system that we all live in. We should bear in mind that despite the fact that some experts argue that Iran developed its centrifuges or its enrichment program within the NPT, the facts on the ground doesn't support this. The fact is that Iran was under sanctions for a long time by the United States and European countries and international community. And actually, one of the reasons that Iran developed its centrifuges and its enrichment program outside the IAEA help, because as you know, IAEA never gave any help regarding the centrifuge program or even the heavy water program. So Iran developed its own program indigenously and declared it to the IAEA later. So it's not true that Iran misused its technological help from IAEA. It didn't get any help at all from IAEA in developing its enrichment program. But it is still within the NPT system. And as you know, it's actually cooperating very closely at the present time with the IAEA to resolve all the outstanding issues. It's very important, and I can't really emphasize that enough, that Israel, Pakistan, and India should be encouraged to bring them within the international non-proliferation system. The reason is that Iran and other non-nuclear weapon states who are within the NPT feel that they are in a vulnerable state. They feel that, for example, if ever nuclear weapons are used within the Middle East or globally, they would be affected. There's negative security assurances, which means that the nuclear weapon states, the 5 recognized nuclear weapon states, have guaranteed not to use nuclear weapons against non-nuclear weapon states, which are members of NPT, like Iran.
Let me just stop you there. Gideon Spiro, do you think that all the talk about the NPT and these other organisations, do you think in the end people think that these organisations actually work, or are people holding up their hands and saying actually the system has gone out the window and everyone is just doing what they want to do anyway, so why bother with all these treaties?
No, the system is problematic because first of all because of the 5 states which are allowed to have nuclear weapons. But the NPT worked so far that I think 170 countries signed the NPT and did not develop nuclear weapons. If Israel, India and Pakistan will be an example for other countries, of course the system might break completely. I think that in order to keep the system working, the countries who are in the NPT should work to put Israel, India and Pakistan into the system, but should not work differently with Iran and differently with Israel. That's very clear today that Israel is using the declaration of the president of Iran, which are deplorable about Israel, but we have to emphasize Iran never threatened Israel with nuclear weapon. He is not very happy with the existence of Israel. That's another story, but he never threatened Israel with nuclear weapons. And on the contrary, Israel is the one who is threatening today Iran with military operation. And we should not forget it. We should be very clear about it. We should be against any military move to solve it by military means. Only by diplomatic means should be solved.
Okay, Caleb and David, you were shaking your head vigorously there. How can you avoid a nuclear arms race, or do you think it's something that you can't avoid?
No, let me just take a few points. First of all, I don't disagree with the notion that all the world's nations perhaps one day could be brought under the NPT. But the way to do that is for the system to work. To claim that, as our other guest did, that the government of Iran is cooperating with the IAEA is an absurd statement. They're not cooperating. That's why twice the permanent members of the Security Council have voted sanctions on Iran, including China and Russia, it has to be pointed out. Second, I'm sure Gideon would agree with me. I'm relieved Ahmadinejad is not threatening Israel with nuclear weapons, as I guess that's a sign he doesn't have them yet. But of course, Iran has used every other weapon practically at its disposal, which it gave to Hezbollah in the last few years, and which were fired on us in last summer's war. Many of those were Iranian weapons. Again, of course, Iran is taking aggressive action against Israel all the time, and it's supplying groups like Hamas and Hezbollah.
I'm sorry, we have to leave it there, but thank you to all 3 of our guests for joining us. And thank you for watching this edition of Inside Story. We always welcome your comments and suggestions. Please email them to us at insidestory@aljazeera.net. Bye for now.